Good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Many Things IT. It's a bit confusing. It's not necessarily, it shouldn't necessarily be Many Things IT, but yeah, it's Many Things IT.
Is that why you paused?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I was thinking exactly about the conversation that you just had. Today is a special guest. Wow. Today is a special day. We're joined by a guest, Linda, but we'll ask Linda to introduce. So we didn't ask for your bio, so you're going
should
to
have asked for a bio.
do it. And the Siwe is here. Let's hear your voice. Does it work?
It does, but we can also just post Linda's LinkedIn profile on the bio, on the video thing, so that also serves as a deeper bio.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's so
Linda.
awkward to talk about yourself, guys.
What is awkward?
I know, right?
It's so awkward. I feel like I'm in an interview.
Pella, there's the part where you say, I'm great. I'm the great Linda. How are you, Linda?
100%. Mshengo, how are you guys doing?
I'm good.
Oh, solid.
Awesome.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
It's an honor. It's an honor. Please do know that.
No.
You are our very first official guest.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
Yes.
Air horn.
Yeah. And basically to us, it's giving us some bit of a step of approval of sort. Mm-hmm. But I do recall me having a conversation with you. When was it? Last year.
I'm terrible with remembering.
It was last year because we had agreed amongst ourselves we're going to have this podcast. Mm-hmm. And it has been a roller coaster. Us trying to get it going until we just decided, bad quality as it is, we're throwing it in. If you can listen to our first episode,
Oh, yeah.
You
Shout
have
out
to
the
start.
people who listened, though. Shout out to the people
They
who
came
listened to
through,
the
eh?
Yes.
Yeah.
They came
Yes.
through. We came
Yes.
through. We came through.
Logo hle ukuthi asikhona ukubona ukuthi ngiholisile. Linda.
Yeah.
One of the reasons we brought you here, it's because we regard you very highly, and we believe that you are a person that can be of great influence, and you already are. I'm sure of that. In terms of inspiring people that are in the field of technology, as broad as it is. One of the reasons why we moved away from IT is because IT is just IT. But if you look at, if we're discussing technology and modern careers, you are in one of those. And I don't even know what it is. What do you do?
All right. I serve as the head of data and analytics for one of the financial institutions right now here in Eswatini. What that means is I lead a phenomenal team of really brilliant people, big thinkers. We're a bunch of nerds, and nerds are some of my favorite people. And on a day-to-day basis, we're just making sure we, first of all, understand what data the bank has, and especially just use it, design models to use it to make sure that we're improving the customer journey, the customer experience, and the customer proposition. That's the short version.
How long can the long version take us?
Okay.
A day.
Probably a day, but I mean the long version goes into our journey really. It goes into our journey around understanding what our assets are, our data assets. It goes into understanding good governance around data. We look at data privacy, we look at consent around data. We have interestingly also grown into behavioral economics, which is basically understanding our data and influencing our customers in a certain direction, improving product take-up.
Nice.
Yeah. So that longer than that is really going to take us a day.
Okay. Do you enjoy it?
I love what I do. I love what I do. It was aspirational for me before I even knew what it was. So the way my brain works is I'm always thinking of process, right? My brain is always like creating a frame, a big picture, and data lets us get into the big picture. With behavioral economics, we start to like paint the picture, adjust what was already there. So I really love what I do. I really enjoy it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So for the less nerdy people in the room, that's just me.
As if.
So, when you browse the internet, right, and you Google Jordans, right? And then all of a sudden, every page that you visit post that is trying to sell you Jordans. Is that what you mean by behavioral something?
Behavioral economics. That is one aspect of it, but not directly. Behavioral economics is the intersection between what we know about you and what we understand about how buyers function. Buyers are human beings. How much do we know about how they make decisions? And basically what it means is we want to then meet you at the point at which you're making your decision and help you say yes. So that's part of it, making sure you see this thing over and over again.
All
That
right.
is your data being shared amongst many entities in the background. But yeah, it's more just understanding that you were actually in that example, we're understanding that it was in fact you, the owner of the device, who searched who is the Jordans fan, right? Someone wasn't necessarily using your phone. It's not that you just searched on behalf of someone or you're looking for a price on that day. There's a lot of it that says this is actually part of this individual's behavior.
Okay.
And then based on that, we know you want to see more content like that, and then that's how that content keeps showing up. Yeah.
That's
All right.
quite amazing. But I'm sure you do a lot of benchmarking in industry as a whole. How big is the advantage that businesses that use data and make data-driven decisions have over companies that just spray and pray, shot in the dark?
Related to this, I live with someone who is a graphic designer by trade, but now she does digital marketing. And because I'll make that example, I want to take it away from financial services. Through her work, I can see when she's taken entities from zero to hero, basically. She's taken entities from where they have zero digital presence, no website, no social media, no nothing, to conversions that they've never seen before. And so it's this thing that people really, we say it, but I've seen it live, where people who have insights, who are using insights, are completely surprised. They think they know their business, right? Because it's very personal as well. You're like, I built this thing. I know how it works.
It was my idea.
It was my
It's me
idea,
who is in
yeah.
it, yeah.
And then suddenly they're sitting there and they're like, okay, it's not going how we thought it would go, but nobody knows about you. They think because I told so many people or we did a print ad, that it's talking to the people that they want. And then they suddenly get a presence. They're now tracking the presence. They have an entity that is making sure that they make all of us who are their target customers aware of their presence. And you can see the numbers. Man, from the people who are going from 0 to 100, it's like 5 times the business in like 3 months. It's been that kind of a thing for the small and medium enterprises in this country.
Obviously, we are not seeing an uptake or an investment in such type of insights, especially in the SME sector. How much of an investment does it require? We are talking about digital marketing. We are talking about, when you're talking about data, of course, you are working for a large organization. But how applicable is it? Are all of these things in a carpentry
Sure.
space, for example?
It's the different. Okay, considering the difference. So for a small or medium enterprise, the initial outlay might seem costly. But if you look at the benefits, and people who do this for a living can show you or can project at least what the outcomes are going to be. And I think if you're going to 5 times your business, your revenue, it becomes a very, very tiny investment.
Yes.
But I get your point around, if you're a small or medium enterprise, you are sort of you're looking at the bare minimum that you can do.
I'm struggling to pay staff.
Yeah. You're looking for the bare minimum. And a lot of these platforms, I guess, give you some insights.
Yes.
I think most of these platforms give you some insights into your page views. I think you can get something from all the meta companies, Facebook, Instagram. I just can't detail them now, but they'll give you something, and that's a place
We
to start.
didn't warn you. You don't mention Facebook.
Yeah, Facebook is a slow one. So I hope one of our viewers can take this opportunity to think about how they could maybe freelance and deliver it as a service for a company that cannot afford to have basically a data office as part of them. So challenge to our viewers.
Or a digital marketing presence.
Yeah.
So, having listened to this conversation to this point, there is passion behind what you do. You sound like a person that's passionate. What is it that drives that passion in you?
So I said I'm like a big picture person, right?
Yes.
And have always been curious about all of the little pieces. Imagine a jigsaw puzzle, right? My brain is wired to just like be looking at why this piece here and not here.
Okay.
And what happens if, so I just have this question of why all the time. My question, I'm like a toddler. Everything is why. And so being in the data community really helps me unpack that. There are very few things that data won't tell you. I'm a numbers person as well. Sure. I believe numbers don't lie. So data, I think, is a lot like that. So it's just what drives us is we've answered so many questions and there's still so many more. There's still so much. It's so rich. It's so growing. Every day there's a new technology. So it's a space that you can learn in, because I think, learning is fun. It's never been a heavy load learning. A lot of the things I do, even outside of work is because of opportunities to learn. So yeah, I think there are lots of opportunities to learn. It's such a growing space. We know so little. We've done so much. We've come so far, but there's still just so much further to go. And that's the kind of thing that excites me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So our producer, who I used to call Sound Guy, but I'm not allowed to call Sound Guy anymore.
Yeah.
Tasked me with basically asking you to integrate sort of a Linda's go-to playlist as part of the interview. So I'm just going to maybe sidetrack you for a bit.
Sure.
And ask that you drop one of the tracks that are on your playlist, Spotify, Apple Music, whichever you use.
Yep.
And then maybe just give a brief why or what that song does for you.
Because it's one of those that just makes me feel great. Nina Simone's Feeling Good. It's even called Feeling Good.
Okay.
It is just there are greats. Like, musical talent is wide. There's so many people who have a musical talent, but Nina Simone is in a league of her own. So between her voice, between the message of the song, it has a groove that I don't think many songs fit into. You can't say where it is. It's not quite mid-tempo. It's not a slow song. It's just in a league of its own. So it's one of those that I listen to when I do, it reminds me of just people who are in their element, who've just found their lane and are just excelling. And then it's just makes you feel good.
Yeah, she was a musical genius.
Yeah.
She was also very brazen social figure who, during that civil rights movement, was there in the mix of it.
Yeah, she did not mince words.
Yeah, and she did not take kindly to nonsense.
Yeah.
There's an interview where she said she basically ended up discharging a gun at some record producer. You should look that up. It's quite funny. But yeah, she's an amazing woman here.
Yeah, there is I was already a fan, and there is a live recording of her doing a song called Be My Husband. I think the recording was at Antibes. And every time I watch that recording, it wasn't ever on an album of hers. So there's just that live recording, and you watch it and you just see what it looks like when someone is completely just in their zone. She's incredible.
And music is just like that. If you're doing it, it places you in a zone. Sometimes also listening to it. And yeah. Nice choice.
Thanks.
A bit. It isn't surprising. The short time I've known you, it isn't surprising. I don't judge people, but I think I am able, with some little bit of accuracy, to actually sense and tell the personality, and the song does fit the personality.
I have questions. Can I ask questions?
Ask questions. Ask questions.
What personality is that? I'm always very curious about how I am perceived.
So you, in people around you, you bring balance because of calmness. You are calm but very strong and firm. By strong and firm, I've been in meetings where you're chairing. It's a very straightforward type of meeting. There is less moving in and out of the conversation that is at table. Very effective, very straight to the point, and engaging with you. My sense is what I see is what I get, and it's consistent every day. And I don't know. How do you become nangabe ukwatile? But I never imagined that you will get to that point. But how I think you'll be very, very straight and firm without shouting. And those are the scariest. But which brings me to a point, and I'd like for us to go way back. What kind of environment did you grow up in?
Okay, how far back?
From that, I want to check if it will affirm what I've just said, as well as to get to understand how much of that influences what you do and how you landed where you are.
Sure. Okay. That's broad, so you're giving me free rein.
In Zambo.
Not to hang myself. My parents split up before I was 5. Right?
Okay.
My parents split up before I was 5. I was in primary school when I was 5, and they had already split up. I have relationships with both of my parents.
You were in primary school when you were 5?
Yes. I started grade 1 when I was 5.
Do you have a teacher parent?
No.
Okay.
I had teacher grandparents.
Oh, okay.
But
okay.
not parents.
Okay. Were they of influence to you getting to school at that age?
I actually don't know.
Okay.
I think they just needed to keep me busy. I think my mom just needed me to be busy, to be doing something.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Wait, when did you start primary school?
Me, 6.
I think I was 4. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Wow. Yeah.
But teacher parents. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they knew how to. Okay,
Maybe
they knew you were ready. Yeah. So my parents had already split by then. They were not married. And I grew up with my mom, but spent most of my holidays with my dad.
All right.
And when he moved out of Eswatini, I would then go to visit Joburg. That was the case throughout primary school, high school. I was a mixed arts and science kid. I did drama and art. I actually got better grades for speech and drama and art than I did for maths and science.
Okay.
So when I got to the end of high school, they said I can do whatever I want, but there are no
Not
artists
drama.
in my family. So there was a heavy ukuthatha logo anytime I mentioned the drama thing.
Okay.
But I also rely or need a lot of stability in my life, and an arts career. I think I stand by it. An arts career would not have worked for me, so
Okay.
I'm okay just enjoying the arts. But when it came down to post end of high school, what am I going to study? I really was not sure. My dad took me to Wits the day the applications were closing because they were like, Agnama gap year exalala.
Okay.
We're figuring this out. So he took me there and I had to decide while we were there. I put electrical engineering down because my older sister is an electrical engineer.
Okay.
And my dad is an engineer. My mom studied chemistry.
Okay.
And then did I put computer science? I think I put a BCom as my third option. I think I just was like, there are 3 spaces and you must fill up the 3 spaces. Started electrical engineering, especially because they were giving out scholarships for that.
Okay.
So started electrical engineering. After the first day, I was like, no ways, this is not for me. Still wanted to take a break, but agna break la la la. So I switched to computer science. You have to take maths and applied maths.
Yes.
You have to take maths. I elected applied maths. End of second year, programming was not my friend. So I gracefully let go of computer science after I passed it at second year.
Okay.
And I got left with my maths majors.
All right.
So that's how I have maths and applied maths as my undergrad majors. And it worked out really, in hindsight, it worked out really well because maths helps me with this thing that I keep saying I am of like the abstract. What's
Yes.
the big picture?
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
So I think, that's how that worked out. Came home with my Wits degree. All the employers are like, "Smendan ngelo muntu we-maths." Exactly. And it turns out the teaching gene is within me, but it was not. There's no way. You need. Maybe everyone can teach, but there's a gifting for people who can teach well, and I do not have that gifting.
Who says?
I really believe so. I say so. It's not a thing.
Okay.
It's a me thing.
Did you try it?
I tutored. So at some point, Pela, first jobs, I'm earning 5,000
Yes.
rand. I'm trying to get extra money. So I used to tutor on the side, tutor maths. And I was making decent money. And I would do it. I didn't hate it, but I was completely drained at the end of those 1-hour sessions.
Yeah.
Bengivangele wait
be.
bantu labadzinga kupasa. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And how important kupasa is. So it was a lot for me.
And
It was a lot. You know.
who have actually brought these people
Exactly.
to a savior.
Exactly. So I think I think we did well. I did it for about 3 years. Kabanga, after my 8 to 5, I'd go and do 2 hours of tutoring different homes, different students. And yeah,
Acceptable online.
online hlobo wami. But tutoring phela needs you to also see ukuthi lo mfana is now at the end of their frustration.
Yes.
So that's how you know, let's find a new technique.
Yes.
Otherwise they can be so frustrated. And that's the biggest thing, especially with maths. Already there's a mental block around it to say ilkuni. So the moment someone hits even a hurdle, it feels like a giant wall. So a lot of it was the presence.
Okay.
So eventually an architectural firm took me on to do business development of all things. But at that point, it's any job. Essentially for months.
Of course.
Yeah, it's any job we'll
course.
do. Nami, I say any other duties, I signed up. Let's do it. That was my first foray into sales. That was a wild time. I consider myself an introvert by nature. So sales in J is like, yeah, I need a nap after I've been.
And sales for an architectural firm, which is something a little bit abstract.
Yeah.
And even if it is, we know a lot of people want to do stuff that has got to do with building or putting up some structures, but to be able to sell, you need to understand what they want. And to be able to understand what they want,
yeah, and people, depending on which slice of the market you're looking at, many people don't see the architectural bit as valuable. They don't see that it's hard to sell the values. It's an abstract concept. Yeah. So that was an interesting time learning for me, but it wasn't going to go very far. I mean, unless I'm an architect, what's the next step? And so then I got an opportunity to get into Nedbank in the credit department. Nalapo, I'm like, what is even credit? But one thing I can do is analyze. And it was an analyst role.
Okay.
So that was my now foray into banking. I got in there and I was like, okay, what else? Very quickly, I was like, because again, what are all these pieces? What is the bank?
Yes.
And I was like, what's that piece over there? What are they doing in the dealing room? Nang but. I'm like, okay, this sounds interesting. Because we've got a little bit of maths there. It's mostly economics and then all of the FX trading stuff. That sounded really interesting. So I lobbied. I think 6 months into my credit role, I was lobbying, knocking on the head of HR. When the dealer at the time left, so the position was vacant, and I was like, I want to try.
It was like,
exactly. I want to try. Telling him, let's calendars until when? Every other month I'd be knocking. I want to try.
Okay.
I don't know whether I wore them down, but they gave me a shot.
Are you that kind of a person, though,
I am.
Linda, that is persistent?
If I want something, I can't think of a thing that I have really wanted that I haven't been ready to work for and get.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not a single thing in all of my life.
Okay.
I took the scenic route through my degree, and the difference was when I just decided, okay, we're finishing now. And then it was, So I am dogged with certain things.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. There's an interesting one. Le ukuthi dealer phela.
Yeah.
Ngifake phela lapha.
Yeah. Okay. And I was like, just try. Let's see if
a lot of people actually say they will advertise, I'll apply.
True.
And
no, I knew where the head of HR's office was, and I would walk by there every. Yeah, I won't mention him by name.
But sorry, I know we're still walking the journey.
Yeah.
But just at this point, I just want to. I'm seeing a lot of determination and perseverance. So, someone looking at your journey to this point where you are starting out, because the higher you go, then a lot goes into it. What traits would you want them to have that would better position them to get their foot in the right door, the door that they want to go through, as you did?
That's such a great question. Communication is a very underrated skill, and I talk to mentees about this, about the fact that you can't ever assume anyone knows anything about you, about your strengths, about what you want, about why you fit, why you're the best, why you and there's so many ways you can deliver that. If I make a 30-second, what do they call it, an elevator pitch? Yeah. Your elevator pitch it's so necessary that it strikes the right tone. right? So people really need to, as early as they can in their careers, start to practice communicating. And sales, funny enough, the sales roles, the one I've already spoken about and the one in global markets taught me that, how to pitch your idea to the person who's listening or to the person you want to listen to. That's a communication skill. It doesn't come naturally. So
I'm just also thinking of the fact that you had explicitly mentioned, Gugutsi, you consider yourself an introvert.
Yes,
and people who are introverted seem to, just focus on the work and believing that will be enough.
But also one thing that I say about introverted people, I'm also naturally an introvert.
You started a podcast.
That sometime back came out of my shell. Introverts drama it in their minds every day that I'm an introvert. I won't say it. I won't say this. Unless and until you get to a point that I'm going to do this. Yes. And gradually you actually, because one thing, this world is ruled by extroverts. Generally.
Yes.
The only difference between extroverts and introverts is that extroverts just stand up and take the mic. I'm running with it.
Yes.
They're happy to think out loud as well. We introverts don't do that. We want to speak when we have the answer.
Yes.
Donald Trump became president of the United States, literally spewing nonsense half of the time. He was talking.
It's because people maybe we are all introverts and we are happy for someone to represent us,
Yes.
But I read something most recently, a quote that it left me shaking. Don't leave the arena to the fools. And it just like it's what I want to scream at. And please, I'm not calling extroverts fools, but this idea that you take yourself out of the game if you are not actively putting yourself in the game. And this is how you end up having Donald Trump, having even leaders, people who are deciding such important things, who don't represent you because you just like work yourself out of the arena.
He told people to drink bleach, by the way.
During COVID.
Okay, Donald.
The bleach one was the second one. The first one was if you increase, because this virus is dying when the temperature increases. If you increase the temperature, it's very powerful.
We can laugh now, but it's really key. So I think I want introverts to understand, or anyone starting out to understand, that communication is not just a talent, it's a skill you can learn. Sales is a skill that you can learn. I'm here testament to that. Like if I went to, I can go back into a sales role now, because there are actually techniques. People undercalculate how scientific sales is, and maybe it works better. I don't think it does. Maybe it works better if you're naturally an extrovert, but I think even people you are selling to want you to get to the point, and introverts can do that. They want the solution, you can give them a solution. So it's really worth, coming back to your question, it's really worth building up your communication skills. And maybe another thing is, if trying to figure out the big picture or a long-term plan seems overwhelming, just figure out what you want to do next and then pursue that in a straight line. So much about my story makes sense in retrospect. I didn't have it mapped out at Galen. And then, maybe this should have been the first one, is please be excellent.
That's the
please
most
be
important.
excellent. That is the most important one. I can't bear people who just want to show up, and you'll have a more tough time selling yourself as the right person for anything if you have a track record of just getting by, minimum. Just existing, bare minimum. So I'm taking the excellence as a given, and consistent, demonstrable excellence.
Sure.
Then the next steps are learn how to communicate that excellence and just do the next thing. Don't wait to figure it all out. Do just what is the next thing.
in your first song that you spoke about, it's Nina Simon. From the curated list, what would be your next a song that defines you?
So you've made the question difficult by saying which one defines you.
It does define you. Every one of those songs define you.
No, I am such a massive music fan. I can't go 3 hours without consuming music. So that was a big ask in and of itself. Saying, how the number that you gave me, I was like, this is not going to cut
the 5.
it. Yeah.
Okay.
That was a massive ask, and I thought to myself, I did the immediate songs that came to mind. Then I had to filter them.
Yeah.
Please, that's a big ask. And did I put Kendrick Lamar on there?
Yes, you did.
All right.
Yes.
Yeah.
We don't be all right.
Yes, that'll be then that'll be the next song. It reminds me of my time in the US, and we had this old church in Boston. Of course, I found the church where Black people were, and it's a very historic church. One of the first churches that was built in the North after the abolition of slavery. It's been around since that time, and so they have this very young, like he was really young. I think he was in his 20s. This pastor, but incredibly gifted. And in his sermon, the one day, he called Kendrick Lamar the modern day theologian. Referred to him as a modern day theologian, Kendrick Lamar. And it was a service that was in their Black History Month, which is February.
Yeah.
And I'm a hip hop fan, so I had to put a rapper in there first of all, and then Kendrick, because he represents so much of just what I enjoy. He's excellent. He is topical. He is just he's such a good time. He knows how to deal with very difficult topics, but always has this like upbeat or positive view. So all right.
All right.
We're going to be all right.
All right. We need to remind ourselves every day about that.
Yeah.
Okay, so from global markets.
Yes.
Now you are coming of age, right? Tell us, where do you go from there?
Yes. So can I take a step back? Previous bank, from credit, they eventually let me into their dealing room. Learned a lot there. And at some point the culture didn't fit me, because that's a luxury you get. As soon as you're not doing your first entry-level job, suddenly you can sift for, do I feel right in this space? And so the culture didn't fit, and then my current employer came knocking. And I thought, at the time I had such a warped perception of the culture of the place. I think I must have been basing it on one or two individuals that I knew even outside of work. But I say that to say I went there hesitantly, but I knew I had to leave where I was. So I was moving away from more than going to. And I got there and I was like, wait a minute, these people are great. So that was a really nice, pleasant surprise for me. It made the work that much more interesting. I got to delve deeper then into the sales bit, right? And that's where I got really scientific about how.
Still in the global market space.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So I was a sales manager in global markets.
Okay.
So all of the client facing bit, that was me.
Okay.
Yeah. Until there were two of us, and then I subsequently moved on to the role that I'm in now.
Okay.
Yeah.
But in between somewhere there was a break.
Yes. So I ran from the other place.
Yes.
Just when I arrived, I got confirmation that the scholarship that I had applied for.
I wanted that bit.
Yes.
Because I was reading up, looking up on you in what is available. In this case, just social media. There is a post by. I'll mix up names. but she's a cousin of yours. She's so raving about you. This cousin of mine, very brave. She left. She resigned from work without knowing whether she will get her work back or something, and went to study.
Yeah.
To study something in whatever.
Yeah.
But it has got to do with maths. That's what she says. How did that come about?
Yeah. Shout out to my cousin, man. First of all, she loves us all so well that she's constantly
Shout
on
out,
hype,
Kazo.
man. Shout out to Kaz.
Yeah, from what I saw, because there's quite a few of them, but magama bacala ngabo N ngumbi apha. So I'm phoning big sevakab. You have them in your corner.
Yeah.
The mention of their mention of you. Yeah, it's quite
and
strong.
I love them back equally. Awesome people. So I now found myself, I think, approaching my 4th year in that first dealing room. Yeah.
Yes.
And I had spent a year and a bit in credit. So I was about 5 years into banking. And I had looked around that bank in particular, financial services in particular, and I just thought that my next wasn't in banking. Yeah. Very funny considering where I am today. I looked around and I was like, there wasn't anything that I was aspiring to in terms of a next role at that time that was within banking. And I thought that if I wanted to change industries, I need something, because my entire career up to then, my entire CV reads banking. I had only spent just over a year in the architectural space. Yeah. So the substantial experience was in banking. And I felt at the time that I needed something that would help me again abstract, and give me more options. I had always at some point thought I'm going to get a second degree. So I applied for the scholarship.
Okay.
In the tutoring that I had done, funny enough, I had tutored some people who were doing the GMAT and GRE exams, and they were also applying for the scholarship. But when I was tutoring them, I wasn't ready to go. It felt very big and very far. And I think a year later, I thought, wait a minute, maybe it's not. So I applied for the Fulbright Scholarship. One of the things that's important there is the academic track record. And of course, because it's a very prestigious scholarship, I had to pick a field of study that would set me apart. So I was clear that we're capitalizing on the maths. And I found operations research, and it really just felt like that was made for me. It was literally this thing of how I've been saying how my brain works. It was like, I get to study that. That's amazing. Processes, improvement. It was right up my alley. So I took the gamble, because I'm like, okay, I'm ready to make a next step. This is going to equip me to make the next step. And I took the gamble, went through that rigorous process, got awarded the Fulbright Scholarship. And I found out, I think 2 months into my new job. 2 months into the new job.
And then you have to knock.
Yeah. So
at HR again.
I sat my line manager down and I said, all this has happened. It looks like I'm going to have to head out. That was an interesting series of conversations. But I think the most important thing is when he subsequently announced it to his line managers, they were very excited, very supportive, and they left an open door to say, if ever you do come back, we'd like to have you back.
So that's how you end up in Boston.
That's how I end up in Boston, yeah.
Is it MIT? I haven't gone through the bio.
I wish. No. It is Northeastern University. It's in downtown Boston. They have one of the highest ranked colleges of engineering schools in the US. The Fulbright program is it's very prestigious, but it's very expensive for the Fulbright program to take me to Harvard. Not to say I would have gotten into MIT. I'm still going to try. But yeah, they tend to, they're not going to take you, the Fulbright is not going to take you to MIT. Let's put it that way. But it was close enough. I went to the campus. I'm yet to go to MIT. I'm determined that's going to happen somewhere in my career.
You know what? I believe you.
Thanks for the
get
vote
it.
of
Yeah.
confidence. Yeah, that's how I ended up in Boston for 2 years. The most interesting 2 years of my life so far. Actually, that was an amazing experience.
I think this piece also should be picked up by a person that is looking at themselves and saying, no, it's not for me, or not at this point. It is important to jump on it and do it, especially with time on your side. I've been speaking with this guy,
This
quite
young
a
man.
lot, yeah.
Yep.
I think for 2 years now he's been unsure of what he wants to do, but yeah, hopefully you've spoken to him.
I guess just trying to move the spotlight away from me to our viewers. I know the Fulbright Scholarship, generally what happens is, for Eswatini in particular, they release a very small newspaper insert just saying applications are open. But you can also follow on social media. There is something called, or a page called, the Knowledge Institute. I think it's run by a very bright young mind called Fanele Chester. Yeah. So if you follow that, Fanele always has not only Fulbright, but any scholarship opportunities that are open. She is always on the know. I'll ask our producer, not sound guy, to put it on the bio as well. The Knowledge Institute.
Yeah. They do really great work. The Knowledge Institute.
Shout out to Fanele.
Yeah, really and truly.
And also, I'm not sure. I don't think they are being paid for that.
No.
It's just out of passion.
Yeah.
And I think that becomes testimony to the fact that if you do something because you want to do it and you love it, it is always going to get that impact, to have that impact.
But imagine the difference that it makes to someone who just bumps into the scholarship ad on just browsing the internet. And they actually go and now
and the economy in general, because the amount of exposure that a person gets, because it is not just about the academics, it's also about the social interaction in a different space, and all of that experience, and that person comes back with it, and it influences.
I think Linda just said it was the awesomest 2 years of her life. So
No,
I'm paraphrasing, guys.
I talk a lot about.
There's a lot of jazz on that side of.
I visited New Orleans while I was there. Man, if you ever can't find me and you're not suspecting I've been abducted, if I ever just go off the
New
grid,
Orleans.
go and find me in New Orleans. I'm telling you now. But I speak a lot about exposure. What you're saying is so big and so important. I tell everyone, do you know how big the world is? And we are on one of the tiniest little dots on it. We absolutely just have to go out there and experience the world. Yes, when you're young, but just forever, I think we should be trying to experience the world. It also just helped me appreciate how special Eswatini is in and of itself. It's not that every way is better, but it just helps you understand yourself, understand the culture that you're in a lot more, and value a lot more things as well. There are really not many substitutes for exposure. So I hope everyone is just always applying to go somewhere and be somewhere.
As well as, of course, we always think of every other space as probably they do things that way. There's a lot of things that are common, that are similar to what we're doing as well, which says from a benchmarking point of view, the type of talent that we have we are not far off from the rest of the. Probably it can be an exposure, an element of exposure, but once you're plugged in there, you tend to actually fit in and be one of the best as well.
Yeah, education is a great equalizer in that sense.
Yes,
because if we're all going through the same coursework, the same exams, we all pass, then it means I'm on par with all the people who are here. Yeah. And though in my case, though, that was a very big international community, so it was very healthy for my self-esteem.
Linda, outside work, you do a lot socially as well.
I try.
Okay, maybe not 100% outside work. You are quoted in areas that speak to your profession as in engaging with us outside of your workspace, particularly around women development in STEM. What is that about you?
Exposure and representation. I'll pick 3 words: exposure, representation, authenticity. Okay. Those maybe represent my values, but those are things that I, in reflecting, realize have made the biggest mark on me.
Okay.
Right. So I said I took the scenic route through my undergrad degree after switching from electrical engineering
to computer science, and then
I didn't know what was not landing. It wasn't that I wasn't interested, and in my second year, for the first time, I was lectured an applied mathematics course by this Black Zimbabwean lady. And suddenly it was like, oh, Natsi's corner. Oh, okay. This is okay. Yeah. Oh, okay. Sikona vele. And I didn't realize until then how othered the thing had been. Like second year, that was my first female, and she happened to be Black lecturer.
Okay.
Right. And so that made a mark on me to say it clearly was important. I hadn't consciously thought about it, but it clearly was important to see people who I felt represented me in that space.
All right.
It is things like, so, and if I think about even that undergrad career, how they were already like maybe 20% women in first year, second year, now there's like 10 of us in the class by the time we get to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it was just this thing of, for some reason, and people are allowed to lose interest or change their interests. Yeah. But for me, trying to be visible in this way is an active attempt at saying to people who look like me, someone has done it. You're not going to be the alien. It's not unusual. I'm trying to make us normal. I'm trying to make us normal in the industry, because I just hear even how people talk about things, and I understand what other messaging young women receive as they're growing up that others them from STEM. Yes. And so in whatever shape or form, I want to say I'm also here, flaws and all. I'm also part of the journey. The representation really, really matters. I can't underscore that enough. So it's always just my attempt to say, no, bakona, sikona, people who look like you.
I'll quote you just before AK. I'll quote you in a post by Standard Bank. The title, "She Leads the Digital Frontier." I think this was one of the messages around Women's Month.
International Women's Day.
Yes. You are quoted as saying, "Technology is truly a game changer for representation, which is a prerequisite for equality. Technology lowers the barriers to entry into the digital economy, which empowers women to be self-sufficient and express their innovation prowess." And from what you've just said, there's quite
message is consistent.
The message is very consistent. And from where I sit, or from where I'm sitting and looking, I do believe that you are making an impact on that. Personally, through such interactions, I personally and consciously taken an interest in this whole women in STEM type of conversation, and every day I ask myself a question. I'll ask it. So wanted to say.
Yeah, maybe before I move to the question, I'll just chill it down a bit. Music, playlist. What's your go-to chill song?
See, my brain is already going elsewhere. What else did I put on that list?
Kendrick Lamar. Okay.
Chill songs.
Show the list.
Yeah.
That's it 5 for me. It's a 28.
It was an impossible question. Again. Zoe Mutiha. So Zoe, the whole album is incredible.
Wait, she was at Luju, right?
Yes. I was absolutely thrilled. Zoe is one of the fresher talents coming out of SA Music. And she is
from PMB.
Oh, is she?
Yes.
But I didn't know where she's from. Zoe is, again, so she's a performer. And I appreciate performers. I know what people put into performing, and you can tell when an artist is just singing, not performing, right? I am not here for
that.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So she's a performer. She's like a brilliant singer as well. And she makes it look really easy. And then her content is, again, very positive, right? Not shying away from exploring difficult concepts, but just like in a very positive way. And there's something really quirky about her. I think that's the thing that I enjoy the most. So we know like South African soul music, but there's something just like she's a little bit offbeat, and I really like that about her. So Ise Kazini is another one of those songs that makes me feel like, your lane, man, your lane, and makes you feel good about just like find your lane and stick to it, and you make all the impact that you need to make in life.
All right.
Okay.
I enjoyed her performance at Luju. And then 2 weeks later, I happened to watch an interview of hers on DJ Fresh's podcast. Mm-hmm. She did it on the morning she was coming to Swaziland.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
That's so cool.
I did not know that.
That's where I picked up that she's from PMB.
From PMB.
A lot of influence from her father as well in her life, but yeah, she's quite a brilliant singer.
No, she is brilliant performer.
So, backtracking a bit, you give a thumbs up and a peace sign. Pack your bags, fly all the way, take a bite at the Big Apple for 2 years, was it?
2 years.
And then you come back.
Yeah.
Where from there?
So remember, I left because I thought I was done with banking.
Yes.
I come back to the unique situation that is our country, with its, let's call them limited opportunities in terms of innovation and new things, right? I think we can agree that we are, relative to the rest of the world, fairly limited. And so for some time, I wasn't sure I was coming back to the country. But it is a condition of the Fulbright program that you give back to your country,
yes.
right?
And we thank them for that.
Yes, absolutely. It is important. I wasn't against it. So I'm back and I'm like, okay, where are we going to go? I'm looking at industries. So at that point, I had decided that I would like to do policy work of all things. I decided that that's kind of what I would like to explore.
Big picture.
big ping. Yeah, I had decided that I would like to do some policy work, but it took long to get my foot in the door. And then I also got this view that actually I would be maybe working my way from the bottom, going into those spaces. And with the open door that had been left for me,
you leverage.
Yes, indeed. Luckily for me, my actual manager was still here, but the people more senior to him had changed.
Okay.
So it came down to another presenting myself for the first time. My boss had vouched for me, so they were willing to give me a listening ear, and I had a conversation with them. They liked what I said, and they invited me back. But I did go back into the role that I left, which was very humbling.
I imagine.
Which was very humbling, right? Because one, I left because I really thought I had just learned everything that I wanted to learn from the industry as it stands. So to not only come back to the organization, but the same role, was really humbling. But it's life. There are bills to be paid. Life has to go on. So I went back, took up the role. And there were things to relearn, luckily, and I was actually really relieved that the organization wasn't where I had left it. So it was testament to the bank that there was a difference 2 years ago and when I came back, and I was faithfully and diligently executing my duties when the group decided we actually need to focus on data, as most international organizations are, and they created this role. And what I had taken from the US is how to be an extrovert, how to say nangmini, So I was like, I was manager in the role, but this was going to be head of a function that had never existed before.
Yes.
So I was cognizant, could say I'm building the thing from scratch.
Yes.
And that was major, and it was going to help me confront one of my areas of growth, which was leading people. I hadn't done that at that point. So for me, in my head, it was this massive undertaking. But I just knew there wasn't going to be a chance like this coming my way in a long time. I won't say ever, but I knew something like this is not going to come along.
At that point in time, that was ever.
At that point in time,
At that point in time, that was ever.
Yeah, so that was my motivation to say, look, if you're going to fail fast, but you're definitely going to try. So one thing that worked out of my system is this idea of being scared to try. Now I try everything. You'll find out later if it works or it doesn't work, but I don't stop myself from trying. So I put my hand up, went through that process, and they said, hey. And I was like, oh.
How big is your team?
7 now. It's a team of 7 now.
7. So
yes.
you've basically grown to 7, or you started out?
No, we started out as 4. Yeah, we started out at 4. We've lost some along the way, and we're still growing.
Okay.
It's life.
Yeah.
It's life.
Yeah.
You mentioned 2 things. The first one, the humbling experience of coming back to the same role. But then you take that role. And then the second one, it's something that you said you learned from the US. But when you're retracing your work story, I think there were some traits of it by those milks at Dilarum. Here I am. How important are those 2 traits for a person that is working if they have ambitions to grow?
They are critical.
Being humble and being aware of the fact that I need to do this because I need to do this, but I don't stop from looking around to what is better and bigger.
They are critical. Humility is it's so critical. leading, any kind of leading is very similar to what I've been saying about sales. You have to be able to put yourself in the shoes of the other person.
Yeah.
Right. And that is, for me, that you can always see a disconnect between a leader who can relate and a leader who can't relate. Right.
Yeah.
So it's very important to go to have those experiences, those humbling experiences, for starters, just because it's life, please, and we all do. And no one's going to get by unscathed.
Yes.
But it's also so that you can relate to people who are striving. You know, you can identify people who are doing their best where they are, you know, who want to do something different, maybe not even higher, but just who are not in the place. And you know how to treat those people with the respect of who they are, the respect of their inherent gifts and their talents, and you know how to just treat them sensitively. I always knew, and the role now where I have an actual team has taught me so much more about how it's all people. Everything is people.
Yeah.
True.
Everything is people, and your relationships and your dynamics. As not to say you have to be nice and a doormat and whatever, and let people walk all over you. But you just always keeping at the end of it all in mind that there's a person behind your ask, your instruction, your dream, your vision. There are people that you require. So humility was critical for you to just get there, and you have to go through the experience and be like, this is not great yet, but there's plenty to be grateful for. You know, right now there's petrol in my car, there's food on all of our tables, you know, and I mean, I had been in that space before. I never hated what I was doing. So it was just that I felt misaligned. Luckily for me, I never hated it. So humility is important. And then the other one about like putting your hand up, it says so much about you. If someone is trying to identify a leader, yes, there are the traits that people will have experienced about you, but putting your hand up says, I'm willing to take responsibility. That's something that people are looking for, because they are also leaders who might not necessarily, who maybe want to lead for the sake of leading, for the sake of the title. There's plenty of those. I've worked with those people who are happy for the title.
Yes.
But there's something about putting your hand up, you know, and recognizing that this is a lot, but I'm willing to be accountable for it. So in a room full of 10 people, there are maybe 3 people who have these leadership qualities, what we know as leadership qualities, and they have exhibited them over time. But when it comes down to it, the act of putting your hand up is sort of sticking your head out to say, I'll be responsible for this thing. It also says I'm willing to learn. I hope it says I'm willing to learn, and I'm willing to grow. People talk about a growth mindset a lot.
Yes.
And I think just putting your hand up is evidence of those things. Yeah, you can still try and be lousy at them, but it is your way of communicating. I am willing, I am ready, I think I'm capable. And there's a difference between someone who's going to raise their hands and the person who's going to sit and say, I think they see me, right? Those are two different leadership capabilities.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a difference, and it's important to
and also the level of accountability, I think it's different. Because the other person may say, anyway, I
didn't really want, when things are getting hot.
But a person who has raised their hand, I believe they have a bigger sense of accountability, because also it is in them every day, the question that they ask. If this thing fails, and yet I'm the one who actually said, I can do it.
Oh yeah. And there was a point about 7 or 8 months into the role where I was like, okay, well, you tried, you're terrible at this, and I think you should put it down now. There were it was a couple of months where I was like, okay, well, I mean, no one's going to give you a prize for trying, but you did. And it's terrible. It's not going well.
Yeah.
It's not going how you thought.
Yeah.
But it might be time. Think about saying thanks for the opportunity and walking away.
Okay.
You've mentioned two things that basically have been critical. I'm noting a third, just from you saying you left and you came back. The value of parting, making an impact and then parting on a good note, And
Yeah.
as a leader now, you say you have built a team, have lost some, meaning they left, and some have come in, of course. How important is it for young people to just have that, okay, it's not working out, but it's like just parting on the right note,
Yo.
Are you seeing it?
Does it happen? That is a really good question. Because it's absolutely critical, right? It's not even about burning your bridges. How you leave is all part of how people have experienced you. And whether someone gets a chance to ever say how they experienced you or not, they have this feeling about you. And you can't risk as a young person, someone asking me about you, and I'm like,
Especially in a small economy like ours.
a million times the impact in the microcosm that we are. You really can't risk it. So I mean, critical. Am I seeing it? We've got a different generation. I can't believe I'm talking about other generations, but yeah, the years have gone by. We do have a different generation now, and I do worry that they don't understand the value of relationships, right? And we've said they are important in my relationships, but they are not the be all and end all. There's very likely a chance I can say that person is a genius, difficult to work with, but they are a genius. Like there isn't anything you can put in front of them that they can't solve. There's that, but how many of us are geniuses, Big Nen? How many of us are those mavericks? And so I do worry that there's a generation of people now who are less aware, less careful with the relationships that they build, especially in your workplace. And when your workplace is it's a free opportunity to create relationships with people that, because you just don't know who anyone's going to be tomorrow.
Yes.
You really don't know. The guy who's in the data team but has a chicken farming side hustle, you just don't know if they're the ones who are going to be able to beat avian flu and continue to supply us with eggs, and then have their own sphere of influence. So you just don't know. And workplaces are very tricky, but yeah, I do think there is a concern. They're not terrible at it, but I do just think that on top of technical excellence, maybe this generation that we're working with now could do more in terms of relationship building. I personally haven't had a relationship sour in the workspace. In terms of people in my team, it's never been sour. But it is an area that I think people could look at.
Okay. Song. Next song, please.
What song represents your hood?
Wait, you guys know the hood. What's the hood? Let me in. Let all of us in.
Not pig speak.
Yes, mina ngingisiswa sempuleni. Yes, my father grew up in Puleni. They're still there. My family was one of those families.
Are you related with Boshedo?
I'm sure we are, but I can't tell you how.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm sure we are. The proximity is just...
ngebakazwane embuleni mina kunathu wethlode bantu.
Yeah.
There is the Ambro Zwane one. And then
that's
there's the shadowish one.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
I am granddaughter to
okay.
Dogotela.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
What song represents my hood? I mean, when I was a kid, one of the when Buleni was feared,
Yes,
it was because of this gent Samson, who I only ever saw with my eyes twice before life happened to him. But I mean, my point is that was a very long time ago, and it's not rough and tumble anymore. It's not that seriously rough and tumble.
So I was a student at Uniswa Kwaroseni, right?
Yeah.
And then luhambo lwami lwangalenye weekend lufake ikhathi embuleni. And then I meet this girl, right? So apparently she wasn't one that was used to going out, especially with boys basenza wena. Now uyangiphekeletela ungibeka etitolo, not le enhla le senders. Then I walk. Then I'm followed by some guy that says but la phelela khona yathi ngaphenza ubuyela hamba.
Yeah.
Use the swear word.
Yeah.
I had to run.
You're a brave man.
Yeah, you are. So we're not going to go with the Cuesta ones. That place for me is where my grandmother lived.
Sure.
Yes, important member of the Catholic Church of Eswatini. Both my grandparents. Yeah. So we're gonna go with Mandisi Tyanki's Somandla.
And there's something about that guy.
Okay. Another Luby feature.
There's something about that guy.
I call his gift anointed because, yeah, man, Mandisi doesn't just sing. And if you've now seen him live, live in the recording, the whatever is in him just transcends. It transcends. So yeah, he's a special gift, more than just talent.
A comrade's runner.
Mandisi?
I think so.
Really?
Yeah. I've heard something about that.
My goodness, overachievers.
But you can see it in him. But
I honestly didn't know him before Luchu this year. So
really,
as he was announced, I then by the time he got on stage, I was ready.
Yeah.
I knew the songs and I sang along. Best performance.
Yeah, right.
No, it does.
Opinion.
It does.
No.
It does.
I have followed Mandisi's shows. I've seen him live, I think 7 times now. Yeah, when he released the second album, Twaga, the first performance I traveled. As in, I will cross the border to watch Mandisi. Is how much of a fan I am. So yeah.
No, he's a performer and a genuine one at that. You can literally feel the person's heart being in that performance. Earlier on, we were speaking about your involvement in women in STEM, and I said, personally, I've picked an interest. A question I would have is 2 questions: is enough being done to bring girls into STEM? Then the second part, which is where I come in, is what is it that could be done by men?
Is enough being done? Yeah. What I think is actually we underestimate what these challenges even are of getting women into STEM, right? We can't quantify the amount of socialization that says imaths yebafana.
Yeah.
Or physics ifundwa abafana. Tinvo nje letilkhuni. You know, letifundwako. No one says that directly. No one sits down and says utayifeila when you're engineering, right? So it's a many, 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 many layers of socializing and social conditioning that actually get you there.
Yeah.
I think there's an element around teachers as well, how equipped our teachers are to make classrooms equitable, to how equipped they are to treat girls the same way that they treat boys. I mean, that in itself is a whole nother bunch of layers. So I think the way we are treating the representation or the attraction of young girls or girls and young women into STEM is fairly surface level. That's my point.
Yeah.
I don't think it's just an NGO's problem to solve.
Yes.
Because there are all these social layers. There really are so many social layers. You know, girls will be teased even for being like boys, for being smart like. No, they'll never call them smart like boys, or just like trying boys things. You can be teased, and then for a young mind, that's damaging, and it'll channel you.
The boy who answers in class is the smart one. The girl who answers in class, you're papa.
You're papa.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's really, I got to go to an international school that was the first high school I attended. International school, and there was a boy, but he's pressed to sing him like physics. Pressed, guys. He used to go red in the face and scan his answer paper versus my answer paper, and I'm there just like, my guy, it's like 2 marks, you know. And for a different personality, that is like, that can make you shrink.
The type of person that if you've been marked correct wrongly, the teacher, but
Exactly.
This answer is not the
my 2 marks must be docked.
Yeah.
So is enough being done? No. And really, it's not one person's job. It's something that I feel we have to allow time in terms of generations to adjust.
Sure. The reason I'm asking about what men can do specifically is because from my observation, the burden to encourage seems to be sitting on women only. And I don't see this integrated approach that first of all recognizes that there is a problem. And I believe there is a problem. And then secondly, because it seems to be a women agenda, Bolinda,
Bobani.
Yes.
Yeah, Dlamini is doing a lot of visible work.
Yes. And that we are there, we are spectators. It is like we are saying, let us see what they are doing. But the question is, there are people that are interested in actually assisting their movement. Of course, I do understand that there is layers and layers and layers and layers and layers of also generational stereotypes being passed generation by generation. To be able to untangle that, it needs an integrated approach.
Yeah.
To those that are there and are willing to raise their hands, what little practical steps can they be engaged in? Maybe it is not something that you can answer directly and fully right now. I do believe that we will have another opportunity of engaging with you in the future, but do you think about it?
Yeah, it's also critical for men not to take a sideline approach.
Yes.
I mean, for me, it matters personally because I have 3 siblings with kids, and two of my nieces are basically girls, of course. Going to need to integrate. I want to exist in a world where I know that these 2 little girls, I think they are 5 at this very moment, can grow up to be whatever they want to be. And maybe before, when I was just vibing, it really could be someone else's conversation. But now I have skin in the game, and I need to do something about it. So I think it's the same or it's going to be the same for many people out there who you think about this little girl who is in your life in whatever capacity, and you think, how would you feel knowing that they got passed on for a role they were way more qualified for, better suited for, but because there was a boy at the time who was also in contention, ended up getting that role. So, yeah, in Zawaitu song, and it should be.
Yeah, I think what's really important is the difference between you and a detractor is your awareness. And the one thing you can do is confront other men about their biases. Because the nature of bias is you don't know you're biased, right? Some people are not outwardly prejudiced, but they don't realize that they actually are. Yes. So the one thing, and it's really important, you're so right. It's really important because for now, as long as we have these double standards, it's really important that men who other men listen to, because if you are biased against women, you're not listening to women. But Linda can grab all the mics and be on all the platforms, but you're just not listening. And so to help people confront that bias will go a long way.
All right.
Yeah, just make them aware of it. They will interrogate it in and of their, in their own time. But once they are aware, once you can't unknow. So if you're able to show someone, actually you do hold this bias, then we'll do the rest.
Okay. So my producer had asked for 5 songs.
Yes.
But I'm just going to try sneak one in so that we can maybe go over the limit of 5.
Yes.
Next song.
Snow Allegra, Find Someone Like You. I am recently a reconverted romantic. And that song just makes me feel warm and fuzzy. And that's necessary in this life.
Okay. I actually just thought Adele, Someone Like You.
Oh.
That's where my mind went to. And then I was like, no.
Not that one, yeah.
But I love, I think, I Want You Around.
Yes.
Yeah, that's amazing. By Snow Allegra. Yeah.
Okay. It's a nice conversation that must be had. But before we bring it to a close, and we're going to bring it to a close very soon. We've spoken about you and your career. We've spoken about you and the person, when you are tracing your kukula kwakho and that. Generally, these fields in technology, and that's why sikhuluma nanga women in STEM, it's because there is a realization of male domination, period, and more so as we grow up in hierarchical order. The people and opportunities that get those opportunities are predominantly male than they are women. Kunana issue ye mental health, which comes with the stresses that are there in the fields of technology. How do you keep yourself above the water? Linda. When we started the conversation, ukaza your role.
Yeah.
You spoke about models that you build, and I want to assume that there are people that depend on those models to test them on the ground, and the expectation is that they are going to derive very positive results that are way more than what traditional approaches to work have been. I then want to assume that places a lot of pressure on you leading a team because you take accountability for the correctedness or the incorrectness of the results of those models. How do you keep yourself sane? Okay, are you sane?
Yeah, that's a good question. That should be the first question. Yeah.
Last I checked, and it was recently. I'm still classified able to function in the society.
Okay. All right.
I am sane. Maybe one of the things was in growing the team, right? When we were 4, the demands were what they are now when we are 7. And those beginning years were proof of concept, right? We were really just validating the existence of this function. Does it do what we have said it can do? Does it bring value? Does it help us think differently?
Especially because I assume it would have been sold that way.
Yes. This is exactly. The data people are going to show us things we haven't seen before. They're going to help us consider things we haven't considered before. And I said about 7 months in, I was like, you know what? We tried.
Linda, phela uyatlana ungahamba nje uyofundzisa. Ukhuluma na Linda.
Yeah, siyathi kuthini uyakhumbula vese bongafuni ukubuya lapha. It went back to that. So yeah, I call me back for the episode on mental health, because I have things to say. For other reasons, I was being treated for depression a few years ago before I went for the scholarship, right?
Okay.
So no, it was not work related.
All right.
So coming into this new challenge that I knew was big, that I asked for, knowing that it was a big challenge and it was going to confront my personal areas for growth very directly. I think what was happening around that 7-month mark was just everything was coming to a head. So and this is now maybe a caution to being an introvert is not all good, because I had this reluctance of going back to therapy, which I had been in before.
Okay.
I had a reluctance now, even though having been before, I was recognizing all the signs. It's time. Yeah. It's time for an intervention. It's time to get some support. And I was reluctant for a while because one of the things, I don't know whether it's just about my brain, but I think I probably share this in common with a lot of people, is you want to have the answer, right? You want to have the answer. I want to go to the therapist saying, okay, here's my problem, now help me. I'm not willing to go there and let this person unravel me, take me through, walk and process all of those things, and then have that view. And yet, while I'm struggling because there's a problem, and the more I struggle, the more the problem builds. So I can say this now because now I've made a regular habit of therapy.
Okay.
I have medical aid. Medical aid is going to pay for it, even if it's 1 session per month. Have your sounding board, right? And maybe that's the way I should put it, rather than say therapy. Just have your sounding board. Yes. If you have the person that you trust and you can completely be vulnerable with and say, I am struggling, and don't require that person to have answers. But if that alone, saying it out loud, hearing it out loud, will help. And so just because of that, taking care of your physical health is important. That's another part of it.
I've seen a lot of that.
Yeah, by nature, I'm not an active person. I'm quite happy to sit on a couch for a full weekend. Quite happy to sit on a couch for a full weekend, but I now actively do make sure that I get physical exercise in. At some wonderful point, I worked with a runner and I ran a 21-kilometer race.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
Once I nearly died. Because I nearly died, I insisted on doing it again so I could just feel better about the experience. After I did it the second time and got through it, I knew for sure it's not for me.
Is it true that it messes your toenails up?
It does. does. It does, because when you're running, this knocking into the front of the shoe. And there are methods, but you really will come down to still knocking the front of your foot. So yeah, I mean, at some point I was like, yes, I'm maybe going to try this running thing. I did. I tried it. It's not for me.
Yeah.
So I get by.
It's painful.
Running. I think there are people for it. I think there's a body type, everything. I've told myself. They are just people that are runners.
I'll start tomorrow.
You've answered a question I've always said.
Yeah.
I'm just not a runner.
But do some exercise.
Lazy body.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, the physical fitness is key. So what worked for me is hiking, and I found the best squad of people to hike with who just don't take it too seriously either. So it works. We'll still do the hike, but it's not. We're not chasing time. We're not. So that's really, really nice. I mean, hiking has the dual benefit of just being in nature. That's really important for maintaining your mental health. It helps to see green. It helps to see blue. You know, if you're going past a water source. And then I am an amateur yoga person as well, but that's really under the category of physical fitness. Move your body is not separate from your mind, and really we've heard it a million times, but I can testify that it's true. You know, physical health is really important for your mental health.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And is it
before I ask my question, of course, music. I know there's a question in there.
Yes.
Oh, we won't stop until there's a question.
As Mosh. Yeah, I've been waiting for the question, guys. I've been waiting for the question.
So we can prolong this by avoiding the question.
and now the director, not sound guy, will kill me.
Yes.
So no, let's jump into the question.
Indaba ngathi kumnandi la. Grand Prix Abu Dhabi la. Asafune kucetha kumnandi. Oh man. Questa, that it's the magic of Questa and Kabza together. On that song. I listen to a lot of hip hop, like I said, and hip hop, I love the songs that are just like, they let you brag and you feel like you've got money, and you know, they get you into that zone. You feel that the energy of just like being bigger than yourself. And I hadn't heard it like the way Questa did it on that song. I was like, okay, Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, okay. It was such a vibe. I heard the song completely by chance. It must have been playing on the TV. I'm not a big TV person, so someone must have been playing it. And I remember I stopped. I was like, who is this? Oh, it's such a jam. It's such a jam. So every time I think about when I'm going to be chasing Grand Prix across the world, when that's my life, I imagine I'll be playing that song.
No. The transition of Kabza is a musical genius. But also just Questa from the Boom Shakalaka coming up a long time ago to now. Like it's timeless. It's amazing what he's done here.
No, it's just such a groove. It sounds so self-assured. It's I can't say the word.
To me, that song has the same vibe as Questa's Spirit. You can see that in producing that song, those guys were just in that zone. They were not looking for likes. They're not looking for money. They're just, I'm happy. I'm doing this.
Yeah, life is good.
One fact that surprised me: Questa's voice has not always been this.
Oh.
So he says, when he started singing, his voice was small. And then he went over a weekend. Then the next day, his voice was just like, oh.
And it worked.
And
the people were ready.
He was like trying to adjust his voice.
Yeah.
And then he waited a few days thinking it is going to adjust. It has been like this since.
Yeah.
And I think I love the fact that I got to know him.
After, Definitely.
I've been a Questa fan forever. But thank you for that. I think we will. It actually has been curated into a Spotify playlist.
Yay!
It will be posted, Linda's playlist.
Yeah.
And will be shared.
That's really cool.
I'm sure our sound guy will also get an Apple Music link there as well.
Awesome.
For our good people on the
Who insist?
Yeah, on the Apple side.
Who insist?
These guys.
But it's been a very interesting conversation, just the journey of your life. And I know I'm a corporate professional other life. There are negatives to it. In your journey, what has been the most difficult? I hate this moment.
Oh, I have bashed my head against the wall at the opportunities that seem so obvious that gets lost in bureaucracy. Or that not being able to implement something has really, really taken me down. Even in the mental health space, some days I'm just like, it's not that hard, it's not that difficult, and it'd be so great. But it needs sign off from 18 people. And you must help 18 people get it. But we only have this much time. Oh my goodness.
And they all want you to present it in a different way.
Oh my goodness. Oh yeah. Those are the days when I wish I worked in a startup and we are all here and this is the room and these are the people, the same people who have the idea are going to be the ones who do it, who implement the idea. Yeah. So that's a challenge of being part of an organization, you know, because and the guardrails are there for a reason, right? I'm not disputing that at all, but sometimes you're just like, come on. And by the time we've gotten to the 18th conversation, someone else has done it.
That is
it's irrelevant.
That is like eight months later.
Yes, yeah. So that can be really frustrating.
A rapper, one of my favorite rappers, once said, the earliest bird catches the worm, but the second mouse gets the cheese. So maybe sometimes just
okay, allow.
Just trying to look at the bright side.
A silver lining. Thank you.
We need to bring this to a close. I realize it's a conversation that can go on and on and on because there's so much to be said. And I think also it helps that you are the kind of person that you are because you've just allowed for this conversation to go on and on. I think it is proper of us to say thank you very much again, Linda, for sitting with us here, taking an entire Sunday afternoon just to sit with us. We do think and hope that it is going to be something that is appreciated also by our community. We don't have much of a community at this point, but we are putting up some steps to try and increase that community because we believe that what we are conversing about is pertinent to people, and anyone at any point, even if it is 5 years from now, can pick up something out of it. And we appreciate the person that you are. You have influenced us very indirectly in a way that you don't know by just being the person that you are. And I do believe that in engaging with this recording, other people are going to take that and derive that benefit. Continue being the good person that you are.
Thanks, man. Thank you, guys. Yeah, that's really nice feedback for me. I work a lot on authenticity, like I mentioned. So it's validating to say at least who you are as you are is valuable some way. So I am thrilled to have been here. Thanks for inviting me.
We have a small token.
We love tokens.
Before we get to the token,
Okay.
is that any additions to the playlist?
Come on, there's always going to be additions to the